It's good to be here. Allowing a field to be built, a vibrational field between us, around us, that goes out from here into the world. Blessing our family and friends, all those in our care, all the things that are going on. And the field of the vibration is the important thing to be aware of. We're each responsible for our own field. We're each also responsible for the collective field. It works both ways. We're tied in and consciously and subconsciously connected to the whole field of mankind's consciousness. And also to the reality of oneness, divinity that's one here on earth, with all things, revealing all things. There are, of course, places in consciousness where man has not been able to go. This is because primarily the field of consciousness has been kept low. The opportunity is for the field to be lifted up, for the vibration of the field, the collective field. Does more if we're each taking the responsibility on earth to allow the field to be stable. Of course, day by day, all sorts of things come in. Awarenesses, things that flow through body and mind and heart. And the important part is to decide for oneself where one is going to hang out. And consciousness tends to float. It can move to higher levels as long as it's not stuck in and asphyxiated to something at a lower level. There are all sorts of things that go on that man hasn't been able to transcend. And as a result, the vibration, the DNA patterns of the body, the consciousness of the mind, and the vibration of the heart have all been, in a certain blessed sense, lowered for the benefit of everybody. Because if it wasn't lowered, man would have burned himself up a long time ago. Man's consciousness would have annihilated man. We're meant to live at so much of a higher level than is being experienced. But that higher level is incomprehensible in a sense. We think of it as heaven, we think of it as a place where God is. The consciousness has a hard time recognizing that the two can interplay with each other. That in reality, the heavenly part and the earthly part can intermingle, and information and consciousness can go back and forth. In a particular way, they're both coexisting at the same time, in the same space. Just one of them isn't as used to being able to tap into the other. On the side of divine consciousness, it's all one. There is no lack of information. There is no lack of movement. It's just the body facility of mankind hasn't been able to fully facilitate divineness coming into the earth. If we go back to the time of Atlantis, the battles that were going on in consciousness, one group was primarily responsible for trying to lower the vibration, trying to subjugate mankind into slaves. And the other group were the children of the light, the ones that maintained a certain perspective on earth. Both these groups battled it out for hundreds of years. The different things that came up in Atlantis certainly have affected man's consciousness and mankind for 10,000 years. These groups, the people, the beings, they all vowed to come back. They all came back time and time again from that point. Some benevolent and some not so. And so we have all the Atlanteans back on Earth, all those who were there at that time, incarnate in form, reincarnate again now, for once again an opportunity for consciousness to be lifted up. This has been a rather mysterious thing as far as most people are concerned. But really it's not that mysterious. The truth is it's all one. Man has to transcend the desire to control man, to control someone or something or even the whole thing. There is no control of the thing in that sense that's of importance. We soon find out when we're children that we lose that desire to be controlled by our parents or anybody else for that matter. Life gets us to the point where we realize we don't need to be controlled by someone else. As sentient beings, we're capable of making our own decisions, our own choices. But somewhere along in Atlantis, the idea became one of controlling. The consciousness became one of subjugating, enslavement. And there were those who enslaved the others, and they enslaved the creatures, they enslaved life itself. There were warnings given out to the ones who had gone astray to turn around, to come back to the original ways, the older ways. And yet they continued on with different types of power systems, different types of genetic experimentation, different types of germ warfare. And there were battles that went on between the islands. And over hundreds of years, as these islands sank, the battles continued. And groups of individuals left and went to colonize other parts of the world. The battle in that sense of consciousness has continued on to this day. Every time the one side gets to be too much in control, this side of the sons and daughters of the light bring forth something that is not able to be controlled by mankind. This ultimately leads to the destruction of civilization. It led to magnetic cataclysmic events, because that's what's able to be drawn forth by consciousness, because consciousness affects not only Earth, but there is the divine side of consciousness that can call forth a science of the movement of objects within the space around Earth. These we think of as comets and asteroids and other planetary bodies, other solar bodies. It's all related to itself. It's all interacting with itself. We do this on a smaller scale all the time. We attract things to ourselves. We've, by this time in our lives, realized that if we put out certain vibrations, we attract certain events. This isn't necessarily seen all the time, but the reality is we always draw that which we want to draw. Man has been drawing things consciously and subconsciously. This power extends for those who have the ability and have the ability to attune and vibrate to the higher levels, into the ability to draw and call other planetary bodies, other solar bodies and events. Everything is interacting in the same way. We interact with each other, we interact with the people in our lives, we interact with everything on a vibrational basis. In fact, you might think of it as more a tonal basis. There's a frequency or tone that each one puts out, and that tone will attract other frequencies, resonant frequencies and discordant frequencies. When one puts out and says something, whatever it is one says, as soon as one opens the mouth, out comes a vibration. This vibration will have the intensity of the heart. It'll have the consciousness of the mind. And it'll be amplified through everything that comes out from the sound chamber of the mouth, the vocal cords, the cavity that we think of as the head. It's all vibrating in consciousness. It's all vibrating something. There are those who vibrate out consciousness and attract situations without realizing that they're attracting it. It's more than magnetic, but it includes magnetic fields. It includes a way of drawing things. Everything works on the same principle. There's a frequency, and there's a tone, a sound, and that tone goes out into the world, and it causes things to ripple, causes things to move. And everything takes on a particular pattern, a vibrational, tonal pattern. We've all seen demonstrations of sound as it moves through sand and how it creates geometric patterns. Well, the same thing occurs in day-to-day life. We're each responsible for what we put out. It's sometimes hard to see the relationship of what one puts out and what one gets back. But nevertheless, there is a relationship. It wouldn't make sense to think that we're all putting out exactly the same thing. Everybody puts out a slightly modified frequency. We're interacting in a planet of frequencies with each other. 7 billion sentient beings, each putting out their own frequency, each resonating with some and not resonating with others. At the core of what one resonates with is that which one starts to harmonize with. The more one's in harmony with something going on in the world, or someone, or an event, or something else, then the more one's vibrating to that frequency, the more one attunes to it. In attuning to it, we start to take on and resonate to a similar field of frequencies. There's a harmony that's built, frequency upon frequency. And there are those who have different frequencies, and in that sense, it's all about the differentiation of frequency, differentiation of the tonal patterns that go on. It's all sound. The most real thing we have is sound. We get the information of sound through our ears, but certainly beyond the voice, there are sounds and frequencies that the ears have and are capable of receiving and are capable of sending out. That sometimes people think are rather distracting, but there are frequencies that go on in the ear. And if you listen to the very high frequencies that go on, that are capable of being heard, then you'll hear the background noise of the universe, the background frequency of what you're harmonizing with. The opportunity is to tune into the frequency of all of the universe. The very frequency we think of as the Om. There's a frequency of God, there's a frequency of the Creator. That is the harmonizing pattern in the whole of all the ranges of frequency. The more one can attune to that frequency and listen so that one even hears it, the more that frequency can have an effect in day-to-day life. Some people are tone deaf, and they don't hear the frequency, they don't hear the tone. We might, in our time together, become aware of the very high frequency that is flooding through the sense of the ears, the auditory system. If we listen, we'll be able to differentiate 60 cycle noise, which we're completely enmeshed in. We're living in a sea of 60 cycle noise. And as a result, 60 cycle noise is all around us. When one has a power failure in the world, in that region, the frequency of 60 cycle noise drops off. Of course, in other parts of the world, they're using different cycles, 220, 210. We're caught in a world that's mostly addicted to these frequencies. All the equipment we have is humming because of the electrical systems and the grid of frequency that goes through it, all at 60 cycle where we are here. And once in a while, when there are power failures, everything, all that 60 cycle noise comes to a standstill. A lot of people live for the frequencies that are engendered by 60 cycle noise. And through TV, through radio, through all the different things of communication. That 60 cycle noise distracts from the core frequency, the central tone. Some hear the tone, others don't. It's possible for everyone to hear the tone. It's always around. If one can get past the distraction of the 60 cycle noise, if one can get past the distraction of the frequency that the mind is playing in itself, running round and round in circles, or the heart and the mind harmonize to certain frequencies, and then man gets caught up in the frequency that they experience, that they're used to living in. When we're children, we're brought up in certain frequencies in the house that our parents create and live in, and the frequencies that are imbued into all of the things around that. We go to school, we go to work, we experience frequencies in different places. Some of them we resonate with. Others we found are discordant. The more one can resonate with a frequency, the more that we find it easy to be with. The more frequencies are discordant, the more we find we get pushed out, or the other frequencies get pushed out from associating with each other. It's harder to see this in personal relationships, but it's the same thing. If we work or join a particular company or do a certain thing, and there's certain frequencies in that company or that thing that everyone who's been working at and doing things with has harmonized with. When we go into that type of situation, we either resonate with that frequency, and we may for some time. And frequencies are constantly in a state of flux. Each person adds their own bit of frequency, their own sound, and it'll change the mix somewhat. Sometimes when one brings one's sound into a collective, it can start to move things in the collective. The whole frequency of the collective needs to reorganize somewhat. In whatever it is, work and relationships. When people enter relationships with each other, whatever type of relationship, it doesn't have to be man, woman, or parent-child. It can be friends, it can be family, it can be people who don't even know each other. As soon as one enters into a conversation, as soon as one enters into a relationship with somebody else, the frequency of that other person or the other people and one's own frequencies start to merge together. It starts to be a different sound because now another frequency has been added. Potentially your frequency being added to a new situation. That frequency is unique to you. It's your tone. It's what you harmonize with, it's what you put into the universe. It's what your point of focus of consciousness has to work with. It's what your divineness has to work with. And people meditate to try to raise their frequency or to harmonize more, to allow the stillness to grow so they can hear the frequency of the universe. And in some cases it may work to some extent if they're capable of mastering the awareness of where they go. You can move from one frequency to another. When one's caught up in a frequency, it's very hard to see that one is caught up into propagating that frequency, into putting out that frequency. But when you get someone else who can step in and listen to the tone, they can discern for you what you're putting out, or you can discern for others what they're putting out. Because it's not from the same hearing system. You're hearing with your ears, other people are hearing with their ears. They're all sensing something slightly different. But ultimately, it's all coming from the experience of one sound that permeates everything. The whole galaxy, all of the things in all galaxies. Science calls it the background noise of the universe. Of course, science expects the background noise to be over a wide range of frequencies. So everything that they do is to measure it in a wide range of frequencies. And if it doesn't fit into the wide range of frequencies that they expect, then they throw away the data and call it impossible. They sent a probe out into space, and that probe picked up 2 frequencies. And the scientists, the astronomers who had worked on that published their frequency finding. And of course the accepted scientific community threw that out because that didn't fit into the accepted theories of a wide range of frequencies, that there could be 2 frequencies behind everything, behind what is called the background noise of the universe. And eventually the scientists who found those 2 frequencies changed their data to conform to accepted science, to conform to the accepted norm. And the theory was debunked that there were 2 frequencies in the universe. From the perspective of where we are, there are 2 frequencies that primarily affect this whole region of space. And these 2 frequencies extend from two different parts of the Milky Way galaxy around which our solar system revolves. One part is in Orion and the other part is in Pleiades. There are two very distinct frequencies that come from there. These frequencies travel through space. They're more than just rays of light. They're more than just frequencies of sound. They're the very core base pattern of frequencies to which everything that travels within the range of those two objects, those two suns, in fact, are imbued with their frequency. Frequencies, when you have two of them, they tend to affect each other. They tend to affect everything else around them. Two very strong frequencies like that. These frequencies that come from Orion and Pleiades are the core pattern of frequency for planet Earth, but also for our solar system. For 20,000 years, we've been going through a debris cloud in space, whereby these frequencies have been affected in so much as they've been tuned down from what we've been able to get here on planet Earth. There's been a debris field that the Earth and the solar system, and this solar system has been passing through. That debris field is about 20,000 years long and deep. But as we emerge from that debris field, from behind the debris field, we'll start to pick up more on these two frequencies. Because of the huge amount of impact that comes from these two frequencies, and all sorts of things can be brought back into harmony with the universe, with the galaxy, with everything around us. And the opportunity is not just to hear the frequencies, but to participate consciously in letting the frequency, the tone that results from the two frequencies, the background noise of the universe, allowing that tone to be amplified in day-to-day life. In day-to-day life, we can say anything we want. We can do anything we want. And whatever we say, whatever we do, whatever we put out becomes part of the frequency that we're extending into the world. People live in a sea of frequency that they don't understand, and they don't understand fully or comprehend that the effect that this has on each other, the effect that the frequency of their own living, how it affects everything else, how it affects relationships, how it affects creatures, how it affects everything going on around. People grasp it a little bit. They like to talk to plants in certain ways, and the plants, of course, pick up the frequencies, the tone. And they also like to talk to each other, and however they talk to each other is again akin to the talking with plants. It'll affect each other. The plants, the people pick up on whatever the tone is that is being put out. You are responsible for what tone you put out. Because by the tone that you put out, you will harmonize or create harmony or disharmony in your world. And this goes for everybody. It's not just unique to one person. Everybody is either harmonizing their world or according or bringing in discordant patterns into the world. Going back to the time of Atlantis, the discordant patterns were patterns of control. Patterns of trying to control others, patterns of trying to get something from others. But we need to move beyond those types of patterns. We need to disentangle ourselves so the patterns of frequency become cleaner in which we live. We cannot enter into the higher frequency capabilities that we all have until we let go of the lower addiction to frequencies and patterns. We have to be willing to move in spite of whatever else is going on in the world, because there's no one who can stop us from choosing what we want and the frequency that we want to live in. And I can't affect your frequency in that sense. I can't make the choice for you, and you can't make the choice for me. Only thing you can do is discern for yourself, and the means of discerning is to see the bigger picture of what you live, how your life is, what's going on, how things are around you, how things harmonize or are in disharmony. Harmony is the natural order of things. Everything wants to harmonize together. Everything wants to dance together. And when that harmony is extended in a particular way, it'll attract things. It'll attract things that are harmonious with whatever the tone is that's being put out. People wonder why they attract sometimes relationships that turn out to be less than what they thought they wanted. It's because they put out certain frequencies, and that led to a harmony which drew the vibration of others, and sometimes those didn't always pan out to be what the person's choice was as far as what frequency and what their lives what they wanted their lives to look like. And so people then get divorced, or they leave relationships and change relationships, thinking that that's going to somehow be the perfect thing. But they're still putting out the same frequency, so they attract again similar things, similar people, similar situations. One only has the ability to vibrate with things, to be in harmony, and to recognize what that harmony is, or to be in a discordant pattern with things, and to recognize what that discordance is. The more we allow ourselves to live in discordant patterns, the more our whole ability to move to higher levels of living, higher levels of vibration are impeded. No one can affect anyone else's choice. This is the truth that was extended back to the time of Atlantis. And those who chose to try to control other people's choices soon found out that they couldn't. There are laws in the universe. There are vibrational laws that extend beyond time and space. They're old laws going all the way back to the creation and the foundation of the solar system and the world and the galaxy. And these laws might be looked on as the law of the tone, the sound. We're created to operate in particular tonal patterns. A pattern that comes from Orion and Pleiades, and where they mix right here in this place in time and space. And there's an opportunity for a third sound, a third tone. And by the very creation of this third sound from this solar system, our sun, these planets, the interaction of the sun and the planet and the moons and the asteroids and all the different people and everything that goes on in this region of space. And there's a harmony that goes on with Orion and Pleiades. This is cosmic dance, divine structure that one can't do anything about. You cannot change it. It's too big for mankind to change. It's too big for mankind to affect. Even the Atlanteans and their technology extended far greater than mankind's technology now. Didn't have the ability to affect the tone. It could cause some discordance for a while, but ultimately the tone is the tone. The frequency that we live in is affected by larger patterns that our living as individuals cannot change, cannot affect. It's much greater than any one person's lifetime. It's much greater than anything that we do. In that sense, even the greatest people from systems of empires that were built all found that eventually, if their thing didn't fit in, it passed away. One either fits into a larger design and purpose, or one finds that one passes away. Mankind has for 20,000 years or more been in a continual process of staying out of the harmony with life, and as a result, passing away. Now we can look at these three tones, the one from Orion and Pleiades, and the tone that's here in this part of the region of space, and give it words so we can understand briefly what those tones represent. And there are different words that can be used to get a different idea, a hint of the flavor of the tone a little bit more. But for now, let's just look at three words: love and truth and life. These three frequencies, these three tones interacting with each other, they're the core pattern. Without these three, nothing else can exist. For something to actually happen, you need these three. You need each one of the three. They're all important. It's a creative triangle in that sense. The pattern can't be broken. If someone is not in harmony with these three things, they will pass away. It's inevitable. And for thousands of years, people who have been, since the time of the fallen state, first being recorded and measured, people have been in the process of passing away because they haven't had the ability to harmonize with the three frequencies, the triune nature of the frequency of the universe. Some people think of it as Om. It's much more than that, but that's an apt vibrational description also. When you feel anything that is in harmony with that, it'll bring a much clearer pattern of harmony into your world. If you harmonize with the tone, with love and truth and life, with Orion and Pleiades and our sun, our solar system, the truth of that will bring forth a better pattern in day-to-day life. Extending from vibrational patterns which one can just barely start to describe, but one can experience it. One can hear it. If one is careful enough, one can hear the interaction of the three frequencies. One can harmonize with it. One can live in it, extend it through body and mind and heart, through all the things that go on. And any part of it that's out of a discordant or in a discordant pattern with those three will sooner or later end. One is meant to be in the harmony, in the music. As one stays in this music, in this harmony, in this tone, and the pattern affects everything that goes on. Lifespans will eventually expand to thousands of years, so people live again thousands of years. It's all because mankind's frequency and man has been living in a lower frequency, and that lifespans have dropped from 4,000 to 6,000 years down to 80 to 100 years or so. And we're filled with frequencies. We're subject to them, or they become subject to us. We just have to harmonize with the very core frequencies of the universe. We just have to hear the tone, understand what it is that it is, see how it is that it's affecting things around. Some hear the tone and others don't. Some feel it and some don't. The opportunity is to let the tone move through, so that body and mind and heart not only resonate with the tone and harmonize with the tone, but extend the tone into day-to-day living. The tone, in that sense, is gone. We can either allow the tone to be what we extend through day-to-day life, in which case it'll attract certain things. It'll attract certain outcomes, it'll attract certain people, it'll attract certain events. This extends far beyond the ability to live for just 80 to 100 years. This is an eternal type of place to exist and harmonize with, beyond form. Form is transitory. All form has to vibrate, and if it doesn't vibrate, it settles back into unvibrating form, which is dust. Most of the universe is filled with particles of dust, particles of things that aren't vibrating. They're waiting to vibrate. There's a lot of dust clouds in space, and in time those dust clouds will be activated and vibrate to higher and higher frequencies. They'll all find their place in it. But the particular dust cloud that we are as individuals, little nebulas of dust, they can vibrate, they can harmonize with the triune nature, the core pattern of the frequency of the Creator. If we look back before the creation of the frequencies, there was a sound that permeated everything, a frequency that extended, that was all-encompassing frequency. Now that frequency is always there. The frequency of the Creator is always around. Can't get away from that. People die because they miss out on hearing what that frequency is, because they're caught up with all the other frequencies of day-to-day life, relationship and work and other patterns and things that they forget. They get so caught up they don't listen. They are so tone deaf in a sense that they don't hear it. What is the tone? What is that frequency that brings so much peace within? What is that frequency that one can hold and harmonize with, that creates the outcomes beyond what mind and heart think they want? Because mind and heart sometimes think they want certain outcomes. And sometimes they get those outcomes and then realize that may not be what they want. We don't need to leave the responsibility for hearing the tone to mind and heart. They're glad to be the ones that take over the responsibility of hearing and extending a frequency. But they're incapable of hearing the tone, the real frequency of the universe. The only part that's capable of getting that frequency information is the divine part. The part that is the being part. The part that is the heavenly part. The part that is able to not just hear the tone, but bring that tone into the world. Is that part is part of the Creator. In you, in everybody is that. And that part which is the son or daughter of the Creator. This extends to everybody, beyond the silly ideas of religion that are propagated, of somehow one being better than the other. Makes no sense. We're all in a sea of the frequency of the tone of the Creator. It wouldn't make sense for it to be an exclusive place where only some, perhaps some get and some don't get. No, everybody's in the sea of that frequency. And there are also other frequencies. But the background noise of the universe is the frequency of the Creator. And the three frequencies that are one. The three frequencies that are all encompassing, all enfolding. They are, for all intents and purposes, they were described as the word Aham. Some hear it as the sound of the sun, the sound of the earth, the sound of the stars. It's all around. We're in a sea of that frequency. No matter how much man tries to disrupt the frequency through pollution and other things, sound pollution, light pollution, atmospheric pollution, all sorts of pollution, noise pollution. Still, the background noise of the universe exists. It's the constant. It's much bigger than anything man can do. It's impossible for man to do anything about it. Long before man existed, it existed. Long after man ceases to exist, it'll exist. It's much bigger. We have individual ability to not just hear the tone, but allow the tone to be extended into day-to-day life. And allow that magic of the tone to work through, to bring forth the perfect outcome of whatever the tone creates, without agenda, just letting it be that which the tone chooses. And then marveling in what comes forth, being delighted in the creation that the Creator creates, and harmonizing and being in a place where one can participate in extending the tone, so that all the things that come through in our lives, the people, the situations and all, are all in harmony with what is truly the power of the universe. The power is there. We have a wonderful opportunity to extend that frequency day after day after day, so that that power creates something new, creates new circumstances, new things that are attracted, pushes away things that are discordant. They'll get pushed away, and new things will be attracted, things that we hadn't even thought of. But by reason of the frequency of the universe, by reason of the tone, something will be drawn forth. It'll be attracted magnetically. The Atlanteans knew this. Both sides of the pattern knew it. But it's the responsibility, and always has been the responsibility of the sons and daughters of the light, who not just harmonize with the tone, but extend the tone into the world. It's always been their responsibility, what occurs on earth. And the other side, the adversary, so to speak, the lower nature of the lower side of the Atlanteans, they're here. But they're soon going to find out that there's something much bigger than what they even thought they could do after 10,000 years. Because 10,000 years doesn't change the reality of the tone. They couldn't wait for 10,000 years to create a better outcome or a better frequency. It just won't work. So it's good to be here at this time with all the other Atlanteans on Earth, so that the final realization of the tone, harmony of the universe can be brought forth. All the discordant patterns are up right now on Earth because they're feeling the real pattern coming in. As the real pattern comes in, it's going to change and is changing everything else. Everything else. Well, it's good to be here and share in a deeper awareness of what our interaction can be, of how we can participate in extending the tone into the world. And so that it brings forth a better outcome than what man has envisioned. A more harmonious outcome for the people, for the creatures, for the rocks and the minerals and the vegetation. Well, it's good to be here and share these things and remember these things. All thankfulness for the supreme tone and that which is. As exercise the next few days, what I would suggest is to listen to the frequency in your ears, beyond the thoughts, beyond the feelings. Listen to the frequency that your ears hear. Some people, they think of frequencies and they don't like the frequencies in their ears. But it's actually a blessing to be able to hear them. Now listen to the highest frequencies that you can hear.